This is Infection, the survival podcast recorded live on Tuesday, March 30th, 2021, episode 324. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We bring you the latest news, reviews, updates, and more, most each and every week. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Gab at Nick. I also now, Brian, am the proud owner of nickcraig.com. I had to pay a pretty penny for the premium, but I am now a proud owner. I'm your host.
I've had one that I've had sit there and watch for years, and there's just stupid politicians and comedians and the stupid TV show in Europe with that name.
Well, somebody was squatting on it, and something I'm going to talk about here in a minute has come up, and I thought it was a good investment. But nevertheless, He is back from the crypt. Mr.
You have no idea.
Brian, at your age, I was a little concerned that I might have to put it on a list. I was already putting out Craigslist ads for a new
race. Let's go for a foot race. Every time you bring up my age,
I was getting
packs of like, let's do a foot race.
I was doing a Wanna Digest ad about looking for love and a co-host in one and the same ad for a personal section in the newspaper. So I'm glad you're feeling better. You sound significantly gooder.
And I was mentioning in the pre-show that me feeling better just happened overnight. Like I felt lousy. Not just because I started feeling lousy, Monday, I think it was, maybe Sunday night, a week ago. And then Sunday night, instantly just felt better.
It just kind of clicks.
Yeah, I just felt better all of a sudden. I was like, okay, well, hopefully this isn't like tricking me and all of a sudden I'm going to feel horrible tomorrow. And each day I felt pretty good.
Got you, bitch. You just wake up the next morning, you're dying.
Well, I kept on like trying to do stuff and being worried that it's going to make me all of a sudden get more sick, or that it's going to catch up with me. So we put in like a closet organizer in the boys' room last night, in the other room, in preparation for doing this room, and then I'll be doing that. I have one for here too. So I'm start table to do that. I'm going to hockey tonight. For me to skip hockey, my wife was like, "You're not doing your pod." I did partial podcast, and I didn't go to hockey at all. She's like, "You must be really sick." Because that's not something I do. I'll go to hockey sick. I just don't want to scare other people. They'll think I'm going to kill them.
Yeah. I thought the second half of the show turned out pretty well. We talked about Frigid a little bit. Did some new. I'll tell you what. Brian, I don't want to sit here and toot my own horn because I would never do that on this program. No. Going back and looking at the old YouTube video, the episode was an hour and 56 minutes. So that was a full length show that we were able to pull out. So. And thank you very much for doing that, because that's something that I hate. I didn't want to miss a show, but as you saw, like I didn't feel better till 2 nights ago. So it would have been, if I would have been waiting for me to feel better, it would have been yesterday. They'd be like, "Hey, you want to do that show really quick?" Yeah. Do you want to do 2 back-to-back shows? Absolutely not.
So this worked out pretty well.
So where can people find you on the interwebs there?
Well, if you do want to find me, you can try to find me at Brian Aldridge on either Parler or Gab. Of course, there's my blog, biteoftech.com. But the best way is just go to infectionpodcast.com, and you'll see on the right-hand side there where it says join our server on Discord. If you do that, you can join our Discord server. It has a lot of people that listen and view the show in there, and we'll talk about games. There's a news channel if you want to submit topics for us to cover during the live show. If there's something you think we need to be covering or not, that's the place to go. Just put it in that channel, and we'll look it over before the show starts and decide if it's something that should be included. We have our Steam group. I don't know if it's sent out today. I did do the notification, but they do maintenance on Tuesdays about this time, so I'm not sure if it popped up for everyone. We do have our Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive forms of the podcast. If you do those, some of those are live, and you can watch on some of them after the fact as well. We do have our Infection Podcast Extras channel that has some of our pre and post shows on there that Judd does. And then the lower right is all the audio forms. You'll see for whatever platform, you can do mobile, you can have it be something that's on your computer, Nick likes to use it. You can get an email just to make sure, as a good reminder or verification to make sure that the show is posted. Also, we have our show notes for what will be 324 episodes of the podcast. And what you do if you want to watch a particular or listen to a particular episode, just pull up that page. There's a player right built into it. So you can watch the video. There's an audio only player as well below that. And then links for everything that we discuss. So if there's something that you maybe were listening to it and you didn't get to see the video and you wanted to see what's happening, you can either go watch it on YouTube or you can pull up the video that we're watching at that time. And that's really useful for people that don't want to use YouTube. So if you want to support us, there's a support tab at the top of the website. And then also you can go to infectionpodcast.com/support. Or if you want, you can go to amazon.infectionpodcast.com or humble.infectionpodcast.com for those two services. And what's the other one that we're doing? It is
subscribestar.com/infection podcast. There's nobody on it yet, so it's out there though.
But that's something we just started for people that don't want to use the Amazon products.
Yep. All right. Well, Brian, before we get into the show this evening, we do have a lot to get into. I want to talk about a quick personal thing here. I've been waiting some time to make this official announcement, and you probably won't see, but it'll be posted over the next couple of days. I'm actually transitioning, not into a deer or anything crazy like that. I am transitioning my full-time IT career into being a full-time talk radio show host. So I will be hosting a morning talk show here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina each and every morning from 6 to 9 a.m. And there'll be some press releases and stuff going out soon for that. So keep an eye out for all of that stuff. But I will be getting my 2 weeks on Friday, so I'll be transitioning out of the dude in IT world and transitioning into the graveyard shift of radio, waking up at the ass crack of dawn, no pun intended.
Yes.
But getting back into something I love, and obviously that'll be
interesting too. Well, you kind of did this before a little bit. I mean, you were doing some morning stuff when you were working at the radio station before, so you do have experience with getting up that early in the morning and then still maintaining. So that shouldn't. I don't think it'll kill you like maybe the first time you did it.
No, it won't. But with that, for people that I know, there's a couple folks in and around here that listen to the Against the Norm show, ATN show. There's going to be one more episode of that next Sunday, and then obviously that's going to go away. There's no reason to do a Sunday night hour-long show, and I'll have 15 hours a week during the week. So that show will be going away, but then replacing it May 3rd, which is a Monday, will be the first show of the first edition of the Nick Craig Show. So
now, did they have a full format and everything, or are you having to come up with some format? How are they handling it as far as them telling you what to do?
Don't know. Figuring it out as we go.
All right, cool.
No, I mean, I've got like 5-6 weeks before we go on the air, so we're still doing some planning on all that, but everything became official late last week, and I've been getting ready for. I've known about this for a while. Brian's known about this for a while as well. But it's taken some time to get everything squared away, but it's all done. So there we go. Back into the saddle, back into the radio world. Don't believe it'll have any impact on this show, at least as of now. But if there is, we'll talk about it. So yeah, that's that. Transitioning into that, and there'll be some news, and we'll promote it. Probably a little sleepier, Nick, on the program, but we'll make it through. So yeah, cool things going on down here.
There's been adjustments if all of a sudden we're doing like a 3:00 in the afternoon show.
Well, that was one of the things that we could possibly talk about doing an earlier show, because I will be done with my workday at about 11 a.m. So there might be some possibilities there, but we'll talk about that. So yeah, that's all. But for the
a Saturday show, we could finally go to a Saturday.
There is a 0% chance that I will do a Saturday show. I have got about 300 other things I would rather be doing on a Saturday. No offense to you.
Actually, don't you want to wake up? We could do an early morning. You're early morning.
2 hours ahead of you.
We could do a night show, and then that'll be early morning.
I'm going to go drink.
Right in your schedule.
Oh, no, it's not going to be in my schedule. What am I? I can't go out to the bar and get drunk Friday night if I got to be up at 6 o'clock to do some stupid gaming podcast on Saturday morning. No, absolutely not. That's a terrible idea. So
all right, we won't do that then.
I don't think it'll have any impact, but obviously if it does, we'll we'll let you know. So yeah, that is agreement says you can't be drinking. Well, I mean, why?
Every morning radio guy I know drinks heavily.
I mean, well, hold on a second. Drink heavily. Don't put words in my mouth.
I just say, I just know
the
local one here. He drinks heavily.
Well, so, I mean,
really nice guy.
Can't confirm or deny if I do or don't do that. So that's not here nor there. So yeah, that's a cool little life change coming out there. It'll be a cool adventure, and yeah, hopefully Infection doesn't get canceled because of my political beliefs. But if it does, well, infectionpodcast.com. So with that being said, speaking of canceling, Brian.
Yes.
Penny Arcade kind of screwed the pooch. You know, they made a big deal about it last year. They're like, we are not going to cancel our events. We are moving full steam ahead with in-person, and we're going to do all this stuff. Now, I think deep down inside, they knew, we knew, everybody else knew that there wasn't a chance in hell that they were doing PAX East. They normally do it in March. Like, it normally would be happening. What weekend? Is it Easter weekend?
No, it can't be Easter weekend.
I thought it was around Easter. Maybe, I don't know when PAX East was. It's in March or April. It's I guess it depends where Easter flows, but it's somewhere between March and April, right around. It's like within like 3 weeks
PAX
of the.
Last year was supposed to be February 27th to March 1st.
Oh, okay. So it's February into March, not March and April. Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, normally it's way early in the year. They knew that wasn't possible, so they were going to do it in July. PAX East is the one that takes place at the Boston Convention Center in Massachusetts. That is not going to happen. It was supposed to be July 15th through the 18th. That has been canceled early, which is good, right? I mean, it's, we're a couple days away from April, but it's canceled, and they're going to be replacing it with PAX Online, which I don't know how that's going to work. It's still going to be in July.
Yeah.
I would assume this means that PAX West is also going to be canceled, since that was in Labor Day, which is not that far after July 15th. It's what?
Well, September. So
45 days?
It's supposed to be in September, so like 2 months after?
Well, it's not 2 months, because it's the end of July. You're talking 45, 50 days between.
A month and a half.
Yeah, so there's not that much time difference. The question is going to be, does Seattle, does Seattle have lesser restrictions than Boston, which I would assume definitely not. So I think it's going to be safe to say that there will be no PAXs this year. There obviously will be PAX Online. If they were smart, they would just put all the PAXs into one. I assume that's what's going to happen with this.
That's probably what the PAX Online will be.
I'd assume so. But as they've said right now, they have just said PAX East. They have not mentioned anything about any of the other shows. They do say that they will move forward with live PAXs once they're confident and they can do the show safely, and obviously they can do all that.
The thing is how there's no way that they're going to be able to guarantee that nobody can get sick. It's just like the cold. It's just like now don't get me canceled off YouTube for this, but it's just like the cold and the flu in that you can catch it.
Well, we all got sick at PAX. Well, here's the thing. There's two different things going on here. For people that have never gone to a trade show, any trade show, there's a mass amount of people coming from all over the place. So right away, you've got people from all over the place all traveling. Secondly,
having to one small location in one small building.
One of the biggest issues, which why everybody it's what's called the con flu. It's not a real thing. But everybody gets sick because nobody sleeps, because it's shows doors open at 7 a.m. and there's events going on all day and all night. So you're constantly up. I mean, we were walking like 8 to 12 miles a day. We're walking all over the place. We're not sleeping. We may or may not be drinking. So your immune system is already like tanked out. Your body is exhausted. And then there's a couple of people that are sick, and then you get the quote unquote con flu. You just kind of feel like garbage for a couple days after. That always happens. That's happened in Seattle twice. That happened in Boston, and it happened when I was in Vegas for a radio trade show, which wasn't a crazy event, but you're just up and at it all day. And then there's events going on, then there's vendor parties. And as Greenman says, good Christian boys, we don't even partake in any of the fun stuff. So even with that being said, we still, you still have the effects. I mean, I remember one morning, I was just feeling so bad from being out the day before and all the walking around. It was awful. I mean, it just felt like I got hit by a bus. So, so that stuff that stuff happens anyway. So even without a global pandemic, we all still got sick and have, I think, all of them. So
that's what I'm saying. So there's got to be a point to where here's my concern is that they're going to require the shot is like a passport.
Or they might. And then if that's the case, then you as a consumer have to decide whether you do or don't want to go.
Whether or not you want to. Yeah. And I haven't decided whether I want to bother with it or not.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be upfront with mine. At 24, I have no reason to get it, and I'm not planning on it.
I'm not concerned about it. Can they force me to get it to say?
Yeah, they absolutely can. Mm-hmm. They can. They have the right to do so. And that's their right. So yeah. I mean, hopefully we can go to another PAX, but we might get put on the chopping block for our beliefs. So we might not be able to do that. But nevertheless, there will be some sort of online PAX event. They do say that they are cautiously optimistic about PAX West and PAX Unplugged, which is the board game event that I believe takes place in Philadelphia. I want to say it's somewhere in Pennsylvania in December. So that's where we stand. I saw the email came in earlier this week. Not surprising. I think this year, I don't believe there'll be any cons this year. Obviously, E3.
They would have to know. We'd have to know somewhat early, because if vendors are not being told to prepare anything, months in advance, I don't see how they could do it. There's too many logistics of some of these companies traveling, sending people overseas. It can't be last minute. So if we don't hear 3 months into it, coming up to it.
So I mean, they gave
there's going to be a PAX West.
They gave about a 4-month lead time on this. So expect within the next
month and a half. If they don't have anything, I just can't imagine them not.
Yeah, within the next 60 days, they're going to announce either they're having the show or they're not, because you have to give the vendors some sort of lead time. They're not going to lease out the convention center. I mean, they make all these contracts with the city. They have to hire security. I mean, you don't just, as we've talked about in the past, you don't just pop up a trade show. It's a very expensive, and I mean, they have to hire.
Hey, but they've got enforcers. That's all the security they would ever need, right? I mean, you met them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the little soy boys running around there. I'm an enforcer.
I'm an enforcer.
You don't have the right color badge to go in there. I'm like, I have a media badge.
Do you want to sit on a beanbag with me? We can braid each other's hair.
Wow. Triggered. So yeah, that's PAX East. Hopefully, I guess the good news is more people will be able to join the online version. I don't know how exactly they're going to have 3 days of PAX online. I don't know what they're going to do. But yeah. Oh, and by the way, the enforcer was really triggered at Green Man's media badge, because he had a different badge than us, right? His said influencer or something. It was like,
Green Man's an influencer.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, they didn't really seem to understand that he was a big deal and has a popular YouTube channel. So they were a little triggered with that, because that guy also had a YouTube channel with probably like 11 subscribers and was pretty salty. The
enforcer guy.
Yeah, the Green Man had a nicer badge. So the good old. I hate to say this. I don't even really care about PAX itself. The fun that we have, just looking at all the people and just going out to eat and just having a good time. I mean, playing Hero Quest and just we do the day of shows where we stream board games. I mean, that's like, you know what, Brian? I'm going to say this right here, right now. Put it on the record. You don't even need to write it in the book, because we're going to do it. If there is no PAX West, we're still getting together. Something. We're doing something.
We need to go. If we do, we need to go to Vegas, because that's probably the cheapest place for everybody to fly, because they do cheap and cheap hotels.
All right, fine.
I'm just saying, if we do it, that would be the easiest. If we need a vehicle, I could drive down there. It's like 8 hours, but
we could,
or we could rent. Oh yeah, for 8 hours, 16 hours of my life, I'd rather rent.
I think if there's no PAX West, and we as a group, and I'm talking about us, of course, our friend Lance, Sean, anybody else that wants to come, Green Man, of course, Matt. Maybe go out to Vegas for a couple days, still do some fun board game stuff, go out, do a little gambling, a little drinking, see some shows, have a good time. That's what I say we do. I'm gonna plant the seed here, because I'm pretty confident there's not going to be a PAX West. I'm itching to get out and do something. And
because then we could get a row of hotel rooms, even much cheaper than what or we could get a really nice. I mean, there's things we could do. There's a lot of flexibility in Vegas.
Yeah, so we'll figure that out. But PAX East not happening, likely PAX West not happening at all.
Okay.
We speaking of letdowns and disappointments, I do want to say I believe you actually do need to open your book for this one. I believe back on this show many months ago, I said that Cyberpunk would not live up to the hype. I think
Yes,
that
you did.
I think that has proven to be accurate. And this news coming out of CD Projekt Red today kind of is going to really drive that home. This report out of CD Projekt Red, they released a long YouTube video, 24 and a half minutes long on YouTube, calling it their group strategy update for the game, in which they detail what is going to be happening with the multiplayer version of Cyberpunk 2077, which a lot of people, myself included, based off of their own press releases and whatnot, believed that this was going to be some sort of GTA, right? GTA Online is kind
Eventually,
of
like they were going to kind of go down that same path.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look at success, I don't know if you can, outside of MMOs, right, World of Warcraft and things like that, I don't think you can find a more popular, successful open world online game besides GTA. I don't think anything in its class even exists, Brian, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
There isn't. I mean, you can't, but outside of an MMO, there's nothing else that is like GTA.
And that's the thing I've been asked. I mean, I don't know how long ago I asked for this first, but that's what I've been asking for, is like an open world kind of sandbox, a true sandbox that like what GTA is, but more flexible, but just have ultra realistic, that just lets you go and create mini games, do all kinds of crazy stuff in it. I think there's still a desire for that. And GTA has the best open world platform, but it's very difficult to mod, and they're having to work against the company. It'd be nice if one just came in and did it right. That would be the biggest.
Exactly. All right. Well, I just joined my meeting here, so bear with me on that. But so this is their update. What they've come down here. Now, I'd recommend you watch the video. I watched a couple minutes of it. Or I watched a good chunk of it, I should say. What they're saying is that the multiplayer Cyberpunk is only going to be implemented, and this is their quote, where they make sense. So they're going to incorporate multiplayer where it makes sense. For example, GTA has got like those street races, right? Where it's you just walk up to a random point and it's like, hey, there's a street race happening in 2 minutes, and everybody kind of sits in a little group, and then you get loaded into the screen into the race. I would assume what they're going to do, Brian, instead of having the whole world be open world, there's going to be like little waypoints to do
where
heists,
you can go and then queue up with people.
So it's going to be more of an instanced multiplayer instead of an open world multiplayer.
And one thing is, it's not specific to just this product. They're doing this across all their products. So rather than just saying we're going to make Cyberpunk multiplayer, what they're doing is on all of their products, they're going to start putting in online components. So I would assume that probably means even with Witcher, they're going to start implementing something. Maybe, it could be something simple like comparing achievements or progress or, times or something, whatever it is that you're doing in that time. I think that would be one way they could do it, but they're talking about doing it across every product that they have, is implementing social and online into it. So I do think that it would be a train wreck if they tried to make a big open world with Cyberpunk, being how busy it is. It's not super modern as far as the engine. They keep updating it, but I think that they would run into a lot of hassles, and I think they realize, the whole launch didn't go as smoothly as they wanted. All they need to do is, just make a bigger mess by trying to make everything online. Now, did you want to know the date that you said that you didn't think Cyberpunk would live up to expectation?
Yeah, actually I would.
Okay, so here, 8/27 of 2019. So,
holy moly. A long time ago.
So you 8/27 2019, you said Cyberpunk is overhyped and will fall short. I scratched out will be a failure. You did back down on that one.
Yep.
And so you went in and instead said will fall short of expectations, which I would say if people expected to have full online, that is falling short.
I do believe that in due time, that quote I would make the argument the quote's true now, Brian. If you look at the,
it has fallen short of what people expected in general.
I'll speak to myself. I mean, I played the game a lot the first couple weeks it came out, and I just found myself not really enticed and engaged and kind of enthralled in the game like I have with GTA, like I have with Red Dead Redemption, with other games. And I think a lot of it, looking back on it, Brian, was the bugginess of the game that at the time didn't seem like a big deal. But as I went further and further, it was like, oh, Jesus Christ, like I can't believe that I have to deal with this crap just to play the game. So what I wanted to do was pull them up on Cyberpunk. What I wanted to do was pull them up on Steam DB and look at how many people are. Brian, would you believe right now if I told you there wasn't even 6,000 people playing the game right now on PC? Not even 6,000.
Well,
its peak was one.
You're saying?
Well, okay, yeah, the same platform that had 1 million concurrent players. I believe it shattered a concurrent player record on Steam.
Yeah, yep.
Its 24-hour peaks 19,517 players, shy of 20,000. So I think personally,
and I haven't been playing it lately, and there's no reason. I mean, I got my new Xbox.
Well, okay. So here's the thing: Steam may be up down right now, but the 24-hour peak is still accurate. It's still 20,000 people. That's not. You look at GTA 5 has got. Sorry, I'm doing this on the fly. GTA 5 has got. GTA 5 has got 36,000 people. 36,000 people. Its 24-hour peak's 151,000. So it's pulling 2046. It's pulling like 6 times the amount of players on a 24-hour basis than GTA is. So I think right now my statement is accurate, and I think going forward without full multiplayer, it will only continue to prove itself accurate.
Exactly, and that's what I was getting ready to say, is if you take a look at the GTA, the reason it's so successful is because it has all the online features. That's what people are coming in and doing, is the online social part of it. Right now, of course, Cyberpunk doesn't have that at all, and the story isn't a super long story. I beat Cyberpunk in much shorter time than I beat GTA. And now I'm going through and kind of doing an alternate, trying to do some of the alternate endings, but still people are not playing this game long-term for the single player mode. And that's all there is at the moment. So, what else are they going to do? Are they just going to keep playing the same missions over and over again? There's not a huge amount of replayability in the game. And that's kind of a downside that, usually, for instance, with Witcher, there's enough content. And, there's been multiple versions and DLCs and everything put out to where there's plenty to be playable still with. But that with this, you play through it, and then what are you going to do? It was the same thing that I ran into with Red Dead Redemption. With Red Dead Redemption, I went through and played it all the way through. I almost, I tried to 100% it. Well, what's the point of what am I going to go do now? And their online is lousy, so I'm not talking about Red Dead Online. But what am I going to go do in the game now? If their online was really good and worked well, I would go do that. But it's not. And I think they probably realized that if their online didn't work really, really, really well for Cyberpunk, that it would just cause them even more of a black eye than what they've already gotten for all the person. I read this past week, I think that the head of Cyberpunk, the guy who was in charge of it all, left the company this week. So he left and went and did something else. So that is something that maybe is a little indicative of what's going on.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Overall, and I want to give this enough time because I think this is a major thing. I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to not have an open world multiplayer. I think if you look at the launch of Cyberpunk as a single player game, I can only begin to imagine what the multiplayer would look like. And while, yes, the GTA multiplayer is fun, I don't think I spend outside of I've never done RP. So take RP out of the equation. Just take the base game's multiplayer, because that's what we can compare it to. Outside of that, I don't think I spend a lot of time just roaming around. I spend a lot of my time doing the races, the car missions.
Yeah, I did in the single player. Like that's where I did the roaming around and kind of checking out the map.
Yeah, same as me. But once you get into the multiplayer, you're doing the missions, you're doing the heists, you're doing the races, you're doing everything. You're doing the instanced things that happen inside the game. So is this a bad thing? I don't know. No, I don't think. Maybe it's not.
The thing is, well, it depends if they're going for the 5M role playing, which I think if they were able to do it well, then I think that would be hugely successful. I think if they could make a server, especially with Cyberpunk, where you can be whatever you want to be almost, right? And there's a lot. We talked about Red Dead Redemption and the very limited amount of things that they can do with their online. And I think it came to fruition and proved itself that there was very limited amount that they could do with the online in Red Dead Redemption because they don't have the ridiculous cars. I mean, you can get a slightly faster horse, you know, you can get a few things, you get a little bit better gun, but there's a limited amount of things you can do. With GTA, that kind of, you know, you can get a helicopter, you can get planes, you can do whatever in modern day semi-realistic that you can get. With Cyberpunk, it's way beyond that. I wish that they could have done it well and they would do it well because I think that role-playing in RP in the Cyberpunk would be 10 times better than than GTA. Well, not 10, but it more versatile. Like you can be the character you want to be. You can work towards, and even in the multiplayer part of it, you could work towards getting certain mods, and that could be, you know, that's what people are earning. There's a lot of just time sinks that could be in Cyberpunk that Red Dead didn't have.
One of my concerns is that they stagger the release of the multiplayer. That is going to be not good, right? They have to, and let me just read through a little bit.
With how unstable the client was, you know, that's a good thing in the end because their local version of the game was whacked out. I can only imagine what online would have done.
So it says, this is now quoting back from the video. Obviously, it's not entirely standalone. This is referring to the multiplayer as it comes from the universe of Cyberpunk, and it is very much related to the concept of single-player Cyberpunk. We ... I came up with, but from our perspective, it is rather another independent production. An independent team of people works on it.
So there's going to be a separate client, if I remember correctly, from what they said originally. That's going to be like what Red Dead is doing now, and what GTA Online will be. You know, because they're going to roll out a separate client. That's where, you know, if you're going to have stuff like that, allow people to mod that client. That's what they should have done with Red Dead. You know, make a separate client so that you don't have to worry about people stealing it as much. You know, and make it to where people can mod.
Well, there might also be another part of this too. Maybe. Just maybe, they don't want to deal with full open world multiplayer because maybe it's a loss leader. And unless you have the success that GTA has, maybe you lose your ass on it. And maybe that's not the risk that they're willing to take.
They don't want to sit there and have to maintain it and have a dying, you know, smaller and smaller group of people on it.
So I'm hoping maybe they will.
That's where the races and individual things would be much better because all you have to do, you don't have to fill a server. All you have to do is
just maintaining people interested in queuing.
Yeah, and you can have it to where you could queue up for a race and go do other things. I mean, if they did it right, it would be easy.
And maybe the idea is that, hey, we'd rather. And again, I'm not carrying the water for Cyberpunk. I mean, they've kind of made it clear that this was going to be a crazy open world multiplayer online, and they're walking back on that. But I'm just saying maybe it's possible that this is not the worst thing in the world, and frankly, maybe they'd rather put the resources to something else. Maybe they'd rather put the resources towards the next Witcher instead of having to build, because it doesn't appear that they were ever going to make the entire Cyberpunk game online multiplayer, even though it probably could have been. So maybe this is what they're doing. The video, I watched the video. I paid attention to what was going on with it. All we know right now is that this is what they said. Previously, we hinted that our next AAA would be a multiplayer Cyberpunk game, but we have decided to reconsider that plan. That pretty much describes it right there. There is some reason, financial, technical, internal, there is some reason that they've decided they don't want to make a huge open world multiplayer game. They didn't do this out of no reason. GTA is incredibly successful. It makes Rockstar a boatload of money. There is some reason they're doing this. We don't know why, but they're doing a more what they're calling a more strategic approach to it.
Yep.
We don't know until we play it, but I assume it's going to be more heists, missions, and things like that are all instance instead of just walking around.
And if those become highly popular, you know what? Make a common area that they can always open that up later. Have it to where you go to a place, and then if you get it to where those are constantly filled, there's a huge population of people doing it. Then start opening it up and say, "Hey, we're going to open up the world." But they don't have to do that day one. Make it to where see if people are even interested, and it's not just people running around trying to hack the system and troll and everything else. Have it see if people are actually interested in playing the game online with other people. If they're not, then don't bother pushing on it anymore.
I don't think this is a cause for alarm yet. They didn't say they're not doing multiplayer. They didn't say that they are getting rid of multiplayer. They just said they're changing it. Mm-hmm. Until I play it,
I think it's going to be scaled back.
Well, it is obviously going to be scaled back.
One thing too is there's so many objects in this world. That's one thing of being a very heavily futuristic city. There's just tons of layers. It's just online to be very, very difficult to do. And I don't know that they'd be able to do it well. And I'd rather have them do something smaller well, and then have it grow from there rather than try to do something huge and have it flop, kind of like what Cyberpunk, compared to what we thought it was going to do, has done.
Agreed. So all we have is a 25-minute YouTube video. We've never seen any gameplay. We don't know the plans. I have a hard time sitting here and carving into stone what I think the future of CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk's multiplayer is. So,
and there's a few other little pieces of Cyberpunk news here. First of all, I just want to announce they purchased Digitalscapes, which is a Canadian dev company that has been around since like 2012 by some people from BioWare, Radical Entertainment, some of the AAA studios. And they specialize in multiplayer game development. Now they have been purchased, bought out because they were doing work. They were a support studio for Cyberpunk 2077, and so they've now been purchased by them. So now we'll have to see how this works out with them reconsidering the multiplayer component. Being that there still sounds like they're going to be doing some multiplayer, but now it sounds like they're going to be doing multiplayer in Witcher trilogy as well. So I think that with that, they're going to bring them in full time and then just implement Witcher across, as I said, but in the beginning, across all their products, and this is part of that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's remember that CD Projekt Red is a massive company with other successful IPs, right? Cyberpunk is their newest of new IPs. They have other successful franchises and series. So
yep.
I'm not really concerned, Brian. I mean, I do think, and the numbers I think prove my point, that the game was a little maybe overhyped. I don't know where you put the fault. I don't know if you put the fault on them, the fault on us, but it obviously has. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, they've obviously learned from something. I still think the multiplayer probably will be pretty kick-ass, but I just don't think it's there.
And they're redoing one thing that I think as a company they learned from this, because if in that video they talk about how they're restructuring how all of the different groups work together. Mm-hmm. Like they're redoing this so that hopefully they don't run into the same problem again. So it'll be interesting to see with all these changes if they come out much stronger, because Witcher still is highly popular. They have the new Witcher 2 season 2 coming out here whenever.
Oh, the Netflix
which
show?
Is going to be going. Yeah, the Netflix show.
Okay.
They're going to be doing a new season of that, which is going to be going through like the Wild Hunt and a bunch of things that you were able to play in the Witcher series. So I still think for them, that's going to be highly popular. And if they're going to want to kind of jump on that, that's where you'd want to go and implement some sort of online and various things. Start putting it in Witcher, because that's probably their most popular product right now is the Witcher series. They also, one thing I was going to mention too is they released the patch. Remember they delayed the DLC,
a big one,
because they said they had to release the 1.2 patch, and that came out yesterday, and it's pretty big. Now this, it says this patch is coming to PCs, consoles, and Stadia soon. But I know that it was released on console. I'm pretty sure it's also out on PC already. So this, I don't know.
I love doing this. Let's do Control P. Let's see, 20. Okay, so there's a little 28 pages of patch notes, Brian. This is a very large update, one that we will not be reading through on the program, but a very large update.
Yeah, it's like fixes to quests and just various glitches, a lot of the bugs that were reported. So, I mean, there's not really any one thing to say, oh, here, this, come check this out. It's a lot of fixes. I don't know that there's, I'm looking for like new things. So for instance, like the radius of the NCPD spawn has been increased, when somebody commits a crime. Steering sensitivity has been adjusted, so cars should be a little bit better. They worked a lot on cars, things like that. But there's just a ton of fixes. So I'll have to go in and play it. I'm really interested because I haven't really played it on my new Xbox very much, and I'll have to see how it runs to see if it feels any different than what I did before. I did
see a couple of posts because this came out yesterday of people that were pretty excited about some of the updates. There's a whole bunch of cool things in here. And do remember, this also is for coming to Stadia for the 8 people maybe that played on that one. So, I mean, I guess if you have an issue, pop into this patch note, press Control F and try to find your issue maybe and see if it's fixed.
Yep.
I do have the game installed. Has it hit Steam yet?
I don't know. I have it through their launcher, and so I get their patches right away because I bought it through CD Projekt Red.
I've got an update. Steam has got an update scheduled for Monday at 4:14 a.m. Not sure why it's scheduled that.
They must figure that's when you're not using your computer.
Let me try to pen the update and see what happens. It's going to probably break the internet.
How big is it?
That's what I'm waiting. Okay, okay. I'm pausing it. It's 25 gigabytes, and it is available for me now. So,
which makes sense. I mean, a big chunk of that will be map because I'm sure they had to touch the map quite a bit, fixing a lot of these things.
Yeah. so yeah, that's that. I mean, we're not going to go into it. It's just too much crap to go into. But it's out. Yeah. Full list of patch notes. It's on their website, cyberpunk.net.
So. One thing Hovercat says, please still spawn on your head if you're on the roof or another hard to reach place. So they still haven't fixed that. Do we want to start doing the game giveaway now, or do you want to wait a little bit? What are you thinking?
We can wait a little bit. It's only been 40 something minutes. Okay. Let's see.
Well, let's do a little follow up here. Let's talk about. We mentioned the AI anti-toxicity. Now we'd seen some screenshots, but there's now a date. A time frame of when this is going to be available. So I thought I would just kind of mention this because we did bring it up last week. But Intel will launch its anti-toxicity voice chat AI in beta later this year. So this will filter out harmful language. Now, people always joked about safe space and all that. This is literally a safe space.
Correct.
You're creating it to where nothing harmful can reach you inside of your little bubble of your headphones. It's kind of funny. They have some stats in here. I found this interesting. Intel said that according to the Anti-Defamation League, around 22% of players will quit a game because of harassment.
Really?
So,
no, they'll Twitter. Yeah. No, they'll. What's actually the issue is that they suck at the game, then they get berated, and they go, "I left because of harassment." No, you left because you're bad, and then because you're bad,
people that want you on their team.
Well, people are you're bad, so people call you names, gamer words, as the title of last week's episode. They call you gamer words, and then you go, "Oh, that's harassment." It's like, no, you suck at the game. You probably were screwing your team over. Like some guy last night, we were playing Call of Duty. Brian, team deathmatch, 100 kills. I get 36 kills. You think, oh, a team can win? Well, yeah, except some one asshole on my team goes 5-25, and we lose. So, of course, in the post-game lobby, I'm screaming at him using every obscenity that is in my vocabulary, and I mean every obscenity that's in my vocabulary. He can't say, oh, it's harassment. No, it's because I dropped 36 kills on a team deathmatch and lost because you couldn't get more than 4 freaking kills. That's why I'm yelling at you.
When I first started playing Call of Duty, like, that's how I was. And
yeah, so well, guess what? And we'd yell at you too because I can't.
I know, but you know what?
I can't drop 36 kills in a team deathmatch and lose, Brian. That's not fair.
But that's the thing is, like, for me, realizing, I couldn't control it, but that pressure is what said, all right, I kept playing it. Like when you guys weren't playing anymore, I kept playing it. Not because I like the game, but because I hated sucking at it and I wanted to do better. I didn't want to be at the bottom of the stats each time.
Yeah, well, this guy,
I wasn't.
If this guy had the Intel stuff on, he probably would have blue screened out of the game. As except CPU overload, his CPU block would have melted, blocking out all the words I was throwing at him. So.
So that will be coming out. So Nick, if you don't get the same reactions later in the year that you usually get,
will this run on my Ryzen, or is this only running on Intel chips? Is this proprietary?
Well,
is this Intel software? Does this require some sort of Intel chip?
It's Intel software. I don't know that it.
I would assume it uses something. I would assume it uses something proprietary in their chips. No,
I doubt it. I mean, I can't. Okay. Maybe they don't really say, but it sounds like it's something they talk about. Headset. I don't know if it's going to be sold with a device. Maybe an Intel. Who knows? Maybe they're going to try to sell a headset or something.
The Intel gamer headset.
Yeah,
it just beep, 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 beep.
So that'll be happening. And then one thing I thought it was interesting is they were I don't know if this is 100% a feature, but they're talking about you could actually put your own words in there. So what you can do is you can pick the words that you don't want, and then you can put in your own versions of that. So I don't know if that's what they're actually doing, but that would be interesting is if you had like little beeps and other words that you threw in for certain words. All right. And then there was another one right after that where Intel is accused of wiretapping. I thought this was, them you gotta have good old honest companies.
But that's not even a real thing anymore. Wiretapping doesn't even exist. You can't wiretap digital.
Well, no, they're wiretapping on computers. Intel is doing keystroke and mouse movement tracking.
Okay, so they're key logging. That's not wiretapping.
Well, they're violating wiretapping laws by doing that.
Okay, I got you.
So in February, they were accused of violating the wiretapping laws, and because they were using keystroke and mouse movement tracking software on their website. So this is
on their website.
Yes.
To do what?
So I am perhaps maybe they had forms and they were catching people's input that maybe they didn't submit it all the way. I mean, there could be a number of different things. That's the only thing I can really think of maybe with keystroke is if they had input forms, they were actually logging the inputs, not just the submits, because then there would be personal information that someone decided they didn't want to submit or, something. So here, let me go into a little bit of details to this because this does detail a little bit. They claim that at least a dozen of our visits to the Intel site revealed potential tracking recordings and/or session replay software, which was used to intercept use and interaction, intercept use and interaction with the website. They don't talk about anything specific in the court documentation, but according to information from Blacklight, which is a site that exposes tracking software on sites. The Intel site uses a session recorder, which tracks user mouse movements, clicks, taps, scrolls, and even network activity. However, the site did not detect any keystroke logging. So it sounds like they're editorializing, the PC gamer here. However, the site didn't detect any keystroke logging, and it's unclear how the session data is being used. So I think that's funny. That's according to Blacklight. That's what they said. They didn't detect any, but according to this person, this blogger for PC Gamer, Katie Wickens, she's claiming that she detected that there's possible keystroke software.
Well, and there is a law. I mean, there is a court case. So, I mean, there's something is going on because it's moving up the Florida state court. It's
but
moving
they'll
from
at least have. Well, and Hovercat says, I thought every website is doing this. They're doing
cookies
forms of this usually, but sometimes they will do mouse movement, which if this is all they're doing, I'm not super concerned because this is a marketing tool. What they do is they go in and they see, where does your mouse hover? Yeah, where's your mouse? Like, because a lot of times when people are reading, they kind of move their mouse where they're at. They use that to determine like where your focus points are on the website. Not just that you click this button, but how long are you waiting? Where's your mouse going during that time before you click the button? And if that's all they're doing, then this lady's just.
Well, no, I don't think this lady's anything because the lawsuit was in the Florida State Court. It's now been moved up to a federal district court in Orlando. So there obviously is something in this that it's continuing to move up the circuits.
Yeah. So we'll have to see if anything comes of this. This is just starting, and this 7 hours ago, and this is when this was posted. Yeah. So we will see if it actually, if they're actually doing that. Keystroking is one thing. I don't care so much about mouse movement. That's not a big concern. But if they're doing keystrokes, that's something that could be a big privacy thing if they're not notifying you.
But is it though? Real like, I'm trying to think. Like, what would you be typing on the Intel website that you wouldn't? Now, the only problem that I could see here is if you're logging in, if they're collecting those keystrokes in plain text, that's an attack vector. Well, but outside of that, I don't really care.
Credit card information, or there needs to be places they're not doing keystroke logging. For instance, if you enter a credit card, because let's say you enter a credit card, you delete it, you don't expect them to have that credit card on file anywhere, which then becomes a attack vector for them, as you're saying, to where someone, if they get hacked,
you can get a middleman
somewhere in a log file somewhere. There's your credit card number, or a password is there, or something is there.
Because that's not the encrypted data. It would just be the key logs, which are not going to be encrypted because they're not hashed. So I have no idea how that works, but that's an interesting story. I don't believe I've ever heard of anybody recently getting hit with wiretapping, which again is a very old standard of literally wiretapping, like intersecting or intervening in the middle of an analog phone call with a wire. That is wire. You're literally tapping the wire to do, which is kind of neat. Cool concept. Not very illegal, but so yeah, that's Intel.
Well, I used to have one of those boxes, one of the old school hacker boxes, and I actually donated it to a place that teaches classes and has like a little
one of those blue boxes, a phone freaker.
No, mine was this big. So it was like this big, this about that long. It was like a big bread box size. It had a keyboard that flipped down and a little really old school screen on it. And you could actually tap it into wires and see data in real time as it was coming across the line.
Damn, that's actually pretty cool.
So I donated it to this place. But when I handed it to him, I said, I was getting ready. I was like, hey, just in case you don't know, this is what, and I started explaining to him what it is. And he's like, oh, no. I know exactly what this is. This is going in my office. So the guy took it in there. But yeah, that they used to do it that way. Now it's become much more difficult because of digital and encryption and everything.
Yeah.
But that's why you don't really hear about wiretapping so much anymore, because everything's digital.
Gotcha. Brian, let's roll to a couple of videos here if we can for a few minutes.
Yeah.
There's 2 Elite Dangerous videos.
Yes. And I can talk over them if you want to kind of. There's talking and things happening in the game.
Okay, so there's a 7-minute one, which is a little long, and then there's like a 3-minute one. You want to start off with that one?
Yeah, we can start with the 3-minute one. So this is information and video because they're demonstrating. They did an hour-long kind of walkthrough of things, but this is one of them is the Starport, because remember they're going to Odyssey, which is going to have actual NPCs, and you can move around, you can walk around. For people that haven't played this, Elite Dangerous, you pretty much are in a ship the whole time. Gotcha. And then they released their Horizon, which allowed you to go onto a planet and you could walk around the planet. But when you got to a base, there was no going anywhere. When you're all these different things, you were docking, filling up your ship, trading some things, and then you'd leave. Now they're doing Odyssey, and they're going to have it to where there's starports and a lot of other things. So these are showing off some of those new features that they're going to be putting in.
All right, let's take a look.
I'm Gareth Hughes from Frontier Developments and I'm the lead designer on Elite Dangerous. Right now, we're working on Elite Dangerous Odyssey, the most ambitious expansion for Elite Dangerous to date. For the first time in Elite's history, the Odyssey expansion will allow players to set foot on light atmospheric worlds powered by amazing new planetary technology. Players will be able to disembark from their ships and explore these planets, discovering new settlements and organic life forms while taking on missions and engaging in intense first-person combat. Today, we're really excited to share this exclusive footage of Apex Interstellar.
Welcome to Apex Interstellar, your gateway to the stars.
A shuttle service that will be available to all Odyssey players, allowing them to explore the galaxy in a totally new way. For a small fee, Apex Interstellar will let players book their own personal shuttle, complete with AI pilot, to take them between the ports and settlements in inhabited space.
Your shuttle is ready to depart. Thank you for choosing Apex Interstellar.
Players can even call a shuttle to pick them up directly from a planet's surface, just like you'd hail a cab. Additionally, we'd like to talk about how the release of Odyssey will give players the opportunity to experience the excitement, scale and beauty of Elite Dangerous from a brand new perspective. Odyssey's boots on the ground gameplay will add on-foot exploration, salvaging, bounty hunting, heists and much more, all seamlessly integrated into the existing game. Elite Dangerous Odyssey is coming to PC in late spring 2021, with an alpha scheduled to begin a little earlier on the 29th of March. PlayStation and Xbox releases are planned for autumn 2021. Thank you for watching, please enjoy the rest of the show and we look forward to seeing you in the game.
All right, Brian, let's roll into the next video here as well for a few minutes.
If you've got the time to lend a hand, I'll pay you for it.
So this is one they kind of showed off. This is going to be one of those pretty much standard starports that you enter and you're able to walk around, pick up quests. You saw in the last video that shuttle. You can go get a shuttle to another area. But none of this existed.
Do some off-the-books
before.
work for me. You interested? Needless to say, this is to be kept strictly between us.
And if you remember on the old interface, you would do this from inside of the
At least everything else
ship.
I can tell you.
You could accept these quests. So they're very similar in how the quests work.
You're missing out on a hell of an opportunity.
You can actually walk around and pick them up from different people.
Need a weapon upgrading? I've got you covered.
And now you saw weapon upgrading, because that's something that they're now going to online multiplayer and able to have kind of PvP combat, and they'll have where you're fighting NPCs with guns, which really hasn't been a thing up until now.
I mean, this looks pretty dope, Brian.
Yeah. You know, and this is their first iteration. One thing you got to imagine, this thing is spread across a huge world. You know, this isn't, you look at Cyberpunk even, and the small little world that, you know, compared that it is. This is a one-for-one like replication equivalent of the galaxy. So
isn't the sort of thing I'd want to
it is pretty big.
With.
PH says this is not an MMO, right?
It will
it's kind
be
of.
not. I mean, it's a miniature MMO. I don't know how many people. You know, this is a giant
MMO.
Yeah, but only really because you're dealing with such a huge world that's so spread out. I don't know how they're going to handle having a lot. They're not going to have 100 people inside of one little star center, right? So that doesn't make sense. If for some reason there's an event and 1,000 people go to the same little place, you don't want to have 1,000 people in one little building. So they're going to have to just do some sort of a way of preventing that from happening. You know, phasing out people. But this giant world, in the end, will be like an MMO, because across the whole universe, you're going to have a giant amount of people possibly.
Have a look.
So they will be in the same world,
Fight
but
is it this guy?
they're going to have to do something to limit everybody who might come to one place. For everybody who wants to go to the Milky Way galaxy or and come find our home planet here. That's going to be something that they'll have to work on.
Interesting.
It's
All
a
right.
deal.
So have we seen? Okay. So we just watched a couple minutes of that. Let's.
Anything else?
You can watch the rest of the video. It's called.
The
Starport.
PH is asking, do they have people, running around? I don't know that you hear like open voice, but I think you can see people moving around. I know you can have your own group. So let's say your own group, you as a group can land and walk around. So there will be online players in these, but I don't know that you're going to be able to trade with other players and do all that kind of stuff. I haven't heard about that yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and PH is pointing. So it's kind of like No Man's Sky. It's kind of like how No Man's Sky did theirs. Very, very similar method.
A game that I'm
in the end.
Definitely.
In the end. Yeah, in the end, how they did it, not how they did it at the beginning.
A game that I definitely played a lot of and gave full reports.
Hey, it could be good. So I think now one thing I put an image in here that shows off some of the phases that they're doing.
Yeah. I'll put that up.
So they have their first steps, which is called phase 1, where they're focusing on the core systems and networking, because that is a new thing for here. The networking kind of existed because they did have dogfights and things like that in space. And if someone else was docking, you could see them. But there wasn't a huge amount of interaction as much to where they need to worry about the real time. So now the first step's new commander issued for every participant in a single star system. And this is what they're working on in a single star system to maximize player interaction. They're making a suit available for purchase. They're going to be giving the weapon sets during this time. Apex Interstellar available for player travel, and then a variety of activities available, including salvage and collect / delivery missions. And then phase 2 is the combat. And so that opens up this one place. It says the 2OLY of space for travel. That's got to be a location. Players can now purchase ships. Manticore Dominator combat suit available for purchase. Faction conflicts will be enabled, and frontline solutions available. So all this stuff that they're doing, they're rolling through and doing. This is just for Odyssey. They just started the kind of test phase of Odyssey right now. So that is something that we will see. With the phase 3 exploration, they're increasing the playable area of Odyssey to a 50 light year bubble, because remember they started out in 1 star system. Okay, here we go. So I understand what they're saying now. So they got 20. Their 1 star system they're bringing up is, and then phase 2 they're going to do a 20 light year size system. Then phase 3 they're doing a 50 light year size, and then they'll be opening it up and testing compatibility in phase 4.
What was the other game? Eve Online.
Eve
is that
Online,
kind of what this is transitioning into a little bit by the looks of it, with this idea of a Starport? Because I remember Eve Online, that was a big thing with Eve Online, and Hovercats is saying I've seen videos of 50 plus players in a system jumping away. Eve Online was like that. At one point,
yes,
right? We talked about it on the show. There was like
wars in Eve Online.
It was like a $3 million real US dollar like war that went on, and people were like killing them, like literally in real life killing themselves over losing all their stuff. It was nuts.
Well, that one dealt with real world money.
But
and that
I mean,
is
that what is? It seems to me that this is kind of transitioning towards an Eve Online. No.
Yeah. Now, for this, economy is a huge part of it, which is like an Eve Online. If they have it to where you can control star systems and start doing that, they totally could. They have kind of like a big meta game, which is what Eve Online is. There is a big meta game to this. Now that it has more online like this, it'd be interesting to see if it starts to transition that way. Now, I don't want them making you buy things for real dollars and shit, in game, kind of like, what other games are doing. But I think with here, I think this could open up a whole new section. They have a giant world. They've got tons of stuff. They keep kind of bringing it and making it bigger and bigger every single year, and they don't seem to. they don't promise. They don't sit there and say, "Here's what we're going to do." It seems like once they've got a lot of it done, they announce it and then they start showing it to you, like they've done with this. But I think they've done a pretty good job.
I mean, we met them a couple years ago in good old Boston. They had a cool booth. Everything seemed to be going good. And I mean, it's always the meme on this show, Star Citizen. But this is a game that is constantly...
These guys are slowly getting there.
But they're constantly posting things.
We're going to do this, we're going to do this. These guys are working their way to a very similar path as Star Citizen without having to take, millions and millions of dollars in money from people.
I mean, there's 12,000 people playing right now.
Yeah.
That's not a small player base. That's a pretty, it's not, it's not GTA. It's got more players than Cyberpunk.
You do remember how much of a time commitment this is.
Once you don't get into casually this, play.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is for that side, that number of players, that's a good number of players for a game like this. I think I'm really looking forward to it. Not that I'll be able to sit there and play it a lot, but they keep improving this game, and it is one of my favorite games. As far as like how it's built and the mechanics of it, I just think they did an amazing job, and they keep on making it bigger and bigger. So I think it's something that they'll slowly will just make just a giant, wrecking ball of a product that it'd be hard for a lot of these other companies to match. And the only ones are, Star Citizen and EVE Online. I mean, there's only a couple that Star Citizen is just promising to do this. They haven't actually delivered on it yet. These guys are delivering on it.
Yeah. It's very interesting, to say the least. And they're going through with that. I mean, obviously they're doing while other games are yapping.
Yeah, and that was my biggest thing about them, is they just seem to deliver. Like, they don't even tell who do you see online saying, "Oh, we want to have this in Elite Dangerous. We want to have this." It's like they have their own roadmap in the background, their multi-year roadmap, and they're just doing it. They're not really even telling you about it until they announce it and say, "Hey, we're doing it now." You don't know what because remember when I asked them about aliens at PAX? I asked them, like, because that and they were like, he was like, "You can ask," he says, "but I'm not answering it." They're very secretive. They put in a bunch of little secrets inside their game. They didn't tell anybody about them. They were slowly figured out and released and unfolded this huge amount of gameplay. Like, the meta and the way that they do the game is just, it's cool. It's for the players 100%. Because they put things in there that, unless the players discover it, like, it'll never be seen. And there's not a lot of companies that seem to do that very much anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's good to see a game that's got obviously a strong player base and a group of passionate players, because obviously they're continuing to roll out updates and add major features. I mean, that Starport video is incredible to look. It honestly kind of looks like Cyberpunk, but a little more spacey. So I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm
looking forward to it.
So speaking of games that are not cool and do not live up to their expectations or hypes, or hype. Well, I wouldn't even call it hype, but that would be a lie. Chronicles of Elyria is continuing in what I've deemed their "Please Don't Sue Me" tour.
There was a post talking about, but that what came out like yesterday, or something like that. But what they were talking about in that is covered partially in this video, so I didn't bother with a post. I figured that we always enjoy seeing the guy talk and try to squirm himself.
Yeah, I mean, I love a good ISIS video any time of the day.
So I pulled the video rather than having us read from a page, because I just thought it was worth it.
All right, let's take a look.
Hey everyone, it's Jeremy here from Soulbound Studios. Welcome to another edition of Inside Chronicles of Elyria. In episode 2, we talked about how we had reorganized the roadmap for Chronicles of Elyria to focus on the settlement, domain, and land management mechanics first. In episode 3, we built on this by announcing we were taking the Chronicles of Elyria test client known as Kingdoms of Elyria and releasing it as a standalone title that'll be available for free to backers. In this episode, I wanted to take you through some of what we've been working on thus far and the progress we've made toward completing Milestone 1. At a high level, Milestone 1 can be divided up into 5 main areas: the environment, the camera controls and user interface, controlling your player citizen, the fog of war, and animal AI. Along with the features in the upcoming milestone, these building blocks represent the elements of play you'll experience in the first 5 minutes or so of Kingdoms of Elyria. Let's talk about a few of them now. As a colony simulator that will eventually feed into the rest of CoE's development, it's important that the various biomes in KOE, including the look and feel of the land, is married to our idea of the biomes for the rest of CoE. That said, although we'll be broadening our scope to include more biomes later, such as the taiga, wetlands, and swamp, for the time being we, and you, will be testing the user experience, user input, and core gameplay mechanics using a single, procedurally generated map that exists within the mixed leaf forest biome. Just like in Chronicles of Elyria, and unlike many other colony sims, all land in Kingdoms of Elyria is divided up into 64 by 64 meter parcels, with players starting out in a hamlet consisting of just 3 parcels and 10 citizens. You can toggle between showing all parcels in the settlement, those owned by your player citizen, or if you don't like the look of it, you can hide the parcel boundaries altogether. Another element of the environment we've been working on in Milestone 1 is time. When thinking about time, it's important to consider the different role time plays in a colony sim or grand strategy game versus an MMO like Chronicles of Elyria. In CoE, a typical day-night cycle takes place over a few hours, with a single year lasting an entire real-life week. Although that's great for a game that mixes settlement and domain management with crafting and adventuring, such a duration would be detrimental to a game like Kingdoms of Elyria, where the primary goal is expanding your dominion and experiencing your dynasty over multiple generations. To account for the higher level of abstraction, we made the decision to have KOE run 4 times faster than Chronicles of Elyria, with the ability to increase that in the offline mode by 2x, 5x, 10x, or 20x. An exciting side effect of this change is that the citizen, the regular gathering of nobles to ratify borders and approve global initiatives, happens 4 times more frequently in Kingdoms than in CoE, or every 28 real-life days rather than every 16 weeks. Another main difference between KoE and other colony sims comes directly from its role as an extension of Chronicles of Elyria, a game where the citizens of your settlement are largely other players. In Kingdoms, you have no direct control over most of your citizens, and instead, you must encourage them to do your bidding with verbal or written contracts. While our next milestone focuses on NPC interaction, AI, and contracts, this milestone has been mostly focused on the one citizen you do control, you. This player's citizen, or PC for short, is your direct connection to the world, and in the early game, you'll have to do a lot of the manual labor yourself, including gathering resources from the nearby area, such as berries, stone, and wood. Something we're also keen to aim for is to have multiple objects in the game world providing more than one resource, depending on how you interact with it and the tools you have available to you. As one example, an apple tree could potentially provide you with fruit for many in-game years, or you could harvest it early in its life cycle for wood and twigs. Making those decisions and balancing your resource gathering can have long-lasting effects on your settlement, even months into the future. We'll be talking more about this side of the game in a blog post soon. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the concept of fog of war, especially if you've experienced real-time strategy or 4X games. But for those who aren't familiar, it's basically a way of restricting your view of a location and key information unless you have a presence there. Kingdoms of Elyria makes heavy use of this. In KoE, your vision is limited to your settlement and the surrounding area. So this is the Civ Rev version, as well as wherever your player's citizen is.
This is the one part
of course, you can grow this radius with better lookouts and taller buildings, but this only helps just over half the time. One exciting thing we've done in KoE is to represent the dangers associated with nighttime by decreasing the visibility around your settlement after dark. You can mitigate this a bit with better lighting, but nothing makes your heart beat faster, quite like seeing your world shrink as the sun goes down. Okay all, that wraps it up for this video, but beginning this month, alongside these episodes, we'll also be rolling out regular blog posts to give additional details on our milestone and development progress, as well as deep dives into some of our core systems and mechanics. In next month's video, we'll look at the rest of what we've done in Milestone 1. As always, feel free to email us directly at insidecoe@soulboundstudios.com with feedback, opinions, ideas, or even suggestions for these videos. This is Jeremy Walsh from Soulbound Studios. We'll see you on the next episode of Inside Chronicles of Elyria.
Give us your money. Then we won't release a game. All right, welcome back.
Well, that Soulbound Studios, that article, he was talking about how they're getting articles. That's the article I was referring to. The article that they posted in the last couple of days went over pretty much just the fog of war mechanic. They covered it here so you could see how it looked and what it did, but there's a separate article that you could read if you want to read specifically about the fog of war, which I'm sure would be a great blog.
Buyer beware. I don't know what else to say.
Well, hey, for people that maybe are hesitant to go and back that, how about we start the game giveaway here really quick?
I mean, I think a free game, an actual game that you can play.
Yeah, that's playable. That's actually been released. All right, so I'm going to be giving away a copy of Kingdom 2 Crowns. Okay. And so if you're interested in entering for this, just type ! giveaway in chat. This is a game that has very positive ratings on Steam. Strategy adventure indie simulation co-op game. So it's currently $20. If you're interested in it, just put ! giveaway in the chat. We'll give it away here before the end of the show in about 30 to 45 minutes.
All right. Let's see. We skipped over a couple things. I just mentioned briefly SteamDB, which is what we actually use here to do our current players. Sega, which is a company very much like Nintendo, doesn't seem to really grasp a lot of things, I guess is a better word. Yeah. Nintendo's the one that's copyright striking YouTube videos of people playing their games, right? That's what Nintendo's notorious for doing that. In this case of Sega, they actually sent a takedown notice to SteamDB, the SteamDB page for Yakuza Like a Dragon, because they were claiming that the game is being distributed on that site. So they were essentially saying that the game was being pirated or allowed to be pirated on SteamDB. Now, if you've never used SteamDB, it's exactly what it sounds like. Steam database. It just logs the people that are playing the games.
Just the numbers, the statistics.
Yes. So the guy who actually runs it, Pavel Dejundik, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. He originally took the page down because Sega didn't respond, and then Sega responded and said, "Oh, okay, sorry," and now it's back up. So just kind of shows maybe the disconnection, Brian, between some of these companies, and it does happen to be Nintendo and Sega, both I think are Japanese companies. So I don't know exactly what the issue is there, but this is not the first time you've heard something like this happening.
Yeah. And it could be something somewhat lost in translation, but
I'm sure
SteamDB isn't exactly doing anything. I mean, sure, there may be keywords in there, but there's no link to download now. There must be something that the words triggered somehow, something that they thought they should be watching for, but obviously not. And so he's pulled the product from the SteamDB temporarily because he tried to contact them, and then they did another one. So it's silly. Do you mind if I cover just a couple things here really quick?
Hit it.
So Nvidia graphics cards, there was a driver update that happened today, and if you do that, they're going to get a speed boost on 17 different games. So this said that they went through and optimized some things, turned on support for certain things on various cards. So on for like the 3060 and 3080 cards, you notice on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Cyberpunk, F1 2020, Forza, Watch Dogs Legions, you're getting between a 5 to 10% ish speed boost from that. And so they did it there's a list of various games, Red Dead Redemption 2, Metro Exodus, Horizon Zero Dawn, Hitman's, things like that. So I would encourage you to just open up your little launcher if that's how you update your graphics card, run the update, and if you happen to play those games, you'll notice, perhaps if your card's right, some speed boost. Another one I just wanted to mention, just for old time's sake, since we've been doing this for a little while. I had a little email pop up from the H1Z1 Reddit, and 12 hours.
What?
12. Someone posted in the subreddit for H1Z1. Said, I played a ton of MMO games, tons of BR games, but I've never seen this much hacking activity in a game. Every 9 games out of 10 has a hacker. And he says, he swears that it's so obvious. How can your anti-cheat can't understand a man who flies above the ground and killing whole lobby? Please fix this. It's unplayable, literally unplayable. Just thought I'd bring that back, that memory.
There is a decent amount of people that are playing that game. There's like 1,000 people that are playing at any given time.
Yeah. People are still playing it. I just think it's crazy. Same thing as when we quit playing it years ago. It sounds like exactly the same thing's happening. So here we go. One thing I remember at the time we suggested, because we were in communication with some of the people from the dev team pretty regularly there. And I remember mentioning, I said, why don't you just put in the client to detect other flying players? Why? Because we were able to do it. We get a lot of flack for it.
Well, I don't think we've actually ever talked about this publicly.
Now that it's kind of passed and people are
it's kind of passed
about it.
We had a member of our group who will remain anonymous that built us our own cheat that was an anti-cheat. So it would detect speed hacking, it would detect no clipping, and it would give us it was either an audible or a visual alert when this was happening. It would beep, actually. Exactly what it would do. It would beep, and it would let us know that, hey, somebody is accelerating at an incredible speed across the server, and it would give us
faster than what you're supposed to be able to move as a normal player.
Exactly. So this would give us, and we were cheating, but we were using this to essentially, like, if we were out in a group, we'd wrap up what we were doing and get back to our base so that
because we'd hear beep, 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 and we know, okay, a hacker's coming. Because somebody's moving faster than you're supposed to be able to play. A hacker's coming, and we'd be like, okay, there's a hacker to the north. Beep, beep, beep. A hacker's coming from the north. And
let's get out of here.
That we actually had a hacker sit there and report us to Daybreak saying that we were using a hack because we detected them.
Yes.
And Daybreak was like, okay. It was ridiculous. So you went through. You're able to, it would detect when someone in the area was moving. And I suggested them, I said, why don't you build this something like what we're using here? Why don't you build it into your tools where you get a notice when someone's moving faster than they should?
No, you don't even notice. Instant kick. If you're moving, it's not a ban, just a kick. You move above a certain speed,
once they tune it enough to where they're ensured that someone's falling off a cliff or, whatever.
But if it's just a kick, then after 3 kicks or whatever, you're banned. I mean, it would have been an easy thing to implement.
So it was incredibly accurate too. That's the thing, is it was very accurate. We had a huge group of people all running around us playing. It didn't go off and beep for them. It only beeped for hackers, and it worked. And that's the thing, is because we had so many people just harassing us and wanting that we actually would battle against the hackers on the server. And the server that we ended up on, it was us and then a hacker clan, and we would just be able to beat the snot out of them so much that they finally were just like, all right, we'll cooperate with you. And that's how it ended up going. But the game, it was that bad where we had ended up doing that. And I mentioned to them, and I was like, why don't you build this in? You could make it to where the clients are doing all this work. You keep having your anti-hack servers overwhelmed and all this, and you're doing all these. They were doing manual bans where they're running batch scripts at night to ban all the people. Just silly stuff. And it's like, you could have built that into the client. If you notice someone's flying in the air, kick them. Have your client notice, and then you as a server check: is he doing this? Are they doing this? Yes. Kick them. It made no sense. I didn't know why they didn't even bother doing it, because it would have definitely helped. Now you would have had. That's why I say, you need to give it notice, and then the server checks, because you don't want to trust the player that, the client saying, hey, this person's hacking. But if you have the server check, the dude's moving faster than he's supposed to, kick. Because people were doing it all day long and nothing was happening. The servers weren't checking. Have the clients spread the load across to everybody on the server to watch their area. Then the server's only checking when they get a notice. It would have been so easy, but they didn't do it. But that was our idea at the time, and it seems like it would have been a good solution to maybe it might have saved the game. Honestly, because the game died because it was taken over by hackers. If you could have had it to where hackers were instantly kicked, or they were very limited in the number of hacks that they could do, like they could do where they could see through things and things like that, but they weren't able to fly around the map and spawn things in, because you could tell if things are being spawned into the world. You'd be able to see that. Like, there were so many things they could have done. They just didn't do anything. They just let the hackers run rampant. They banned a bunch of people, but they didn't try to actually limit the hacking, which I didn't understand.
Yeah. So interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's a little bit of a throwback, but that is happening. So in case any of you are wondering, there's still no reason to go back to H1Z1.
No. And again, that's just the BR version. The survival quote unquote version is actually gone.
And the only person who was really pissed about that whole thing was a hacker, and I thought that was funny. They were really
pissed. I actually do remember. I thought somebody from Daybreak sent us an email. It was like, "Hey, is this true?" And we were like, "Yeah."
He did. So he did email us, and he said, "Hey, because they didn't want us. We were inspecting that. We're doing all the same things that a hacker was doing to inspect the process and to see what was happening, but we didn't use it in the game. We had something else that was just monitoring." And then doing.
We weren't cheating. We could have gotten banned. We were cheating. But we weren't cheating to.
But the thing is, I told them exactly
ourselves.
what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, this is all it does. It beeps when a hacker comes in. That's what it does. If you're going to ban me for that would have been a nice Reddit post.
Well, it would have been a nice podcast. And I'll say this, Brian. We probably, because of the podcast, is probably why we didn't get banned, because it would have been.
Yeah.
We would have.
They would have banned us just to make it so where it wasn't. Yeah. Didn't have to deal with this.
Yeah. So.
Anyways.
A quick note here. GameStop is going to start selling GPUs. They obviously don't have any GPUs because nobody does, but they are going to start selling them, and this is part of their continued quest to diversify their portfolio as to what they sell.
Okay, and that'll be interesting to see once things kind of normalize. Right now, is hardware the way for them to go? Because that's going towards a PC. That's kind of the opposite of what you think of GameStop doing, because they don't sell PC games, but selling video cards. Maybe you'll start seeing them transition and kind of go less console and have a mixture of PC and console games. I think this is something that would make sense. I don't think it would be a dumb move for them to do. I think years ago people said, "Oh, PC, that's a dying market." But I think there are plenty of. I think they should diverse between PC and console. Open up to more audience, because there are titles that are not on console that are just on PC, or things that they can sell that you just aren't available to sell on a console.
Yeah.
So I think they need everything they can to bring money in during this time.
Agreed.
So there was Apex Legends. They put out a notice and they're rebranding something. There's been, I don't know if you follow the news, but there's been a lot of talk about Asian hate crimes. That's been, for some reason, out of the blue. We got a bunch of talk about Asian hate crimes. And so Apex Legends, of course, because you don't want to be the person who releases something and then everybody tells you you're racist. They are halting Chinatown market skins. And because the people, I guess, managing that are rebranding what they call Chinatown. They don't want it to be called Chinatown because is that racist? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know how it would be considered racist.
An area of town where people tend to live and have cultural influence, and have restaurants. And
Chinatown in New York it's called Chinatown because the Chinese people there have deemed it Chinatown
because it's where they can kind of live like it's China.
That's kind of the premise, yeah.
Yeah. So this is they were building something into it. Now Chinatown Market said, huge update, proud to work at a company that considers its impact on the world at large. And then they have a nice little post talking about the Asian American communities and them. Our name was inspired by the shop's people, and talking about how it was named after Chinatown, but I guess they're going to be doing a rebranding, so they're having to hold off on this Apex Legends thing because of the rebrand. It'll be interesting to see the comments on. We don't need to go through the comments because I'm sure that'll get us off of Twitch for good finally. But there's a lot of people making comments ridiculous comments that are pretty funny to read if you want to scroll through.
I would imagine. Well, that's interesting to say the least.
Yeah, so that is happening. We will see. I don't find it offensive. I don't think people.
Well,
China. I don't think people from China would. Yeah, I don't know if they consider that offensive. So we'll see if because most of the people are not Chinese who are commenting on this. So I'll just give you that. There are some people that maybe are Chinese that are making comments on it, but most of the people that are doing this have nothing to do with the culture, and so I pretty much don't really care what they think. I'd rather hear from people from China or people that have that just that history, of influence from China.
Yes, sir.
So we'll see. I just thought I'd mention it. People getting pissed off about whatever is trending on the local news. Also, we have on here, here's another thing I figured I just mention it because, of course, they have to mention this. PC Gamer said Activision Blizzard has appointed a former Trump official as its chief administrative officer. So the CAO is Mike Pompeo's attack dog, is what they call him. So his name is Armin Zurza, and Armin Zurza became the chief financial officer, and Bulatao is the guy who's become the CAO.
I found that to be a very interesting article over there at PC Gamer. Not really relevant
Yeah,
at all.
I thought it was odd that they had to sit there and say, "Oh, it's a Trump official." They didn't really seem mad about it.
Well,
I just thought it was odd that they felt like they had to write.
Yeah, that's what the headline was indicating in my.
I'm not seeing anybody really mad about it because people are like, okay, who cares?
Yeah. Do what you do, PC Gamer. Let's talk about Dead Matter for a minute here. We got a couple things. There's a PSA that's out now about key reselling. If you remember back to the Dead Matter launch, why it was a complete and utter freaking disaster was because they are using a system built into Steam to do beta keys. They are limited run, generated by Steam beta keys. Mm-hmm. So the key that you have right now for your game is not the key for the final launch, for the release, rather. It is just an alpha key. It's a separate key. So they've said that they've seen an uptick of people selling their unredeemed keys on third-party sites, which they're fine with, but they're just saying, be aware.
The idiots buying them don't realize that that's going to expire, and then when they release the game, the person who sold you the key is going to get the real one, and you're going to not have a game anymore.
Exactly. So that's the note with that. Just kind of a buyer beware that you will only get access to the closed alpha. So you still can buy somebody else's key. It's not like against their terms of service, but you're not getting access. You will only get access to the closed alpha, not the final release. So you've got that. Then you've also got their monthly roundup, which was a little disappointing. We've seen now, I want to say the last 5 or 6 posts have been saying we're getting 0.6 ready to go out the door. It's still not there. They blame some of the delays on Unreal Engine 4.26, which a bunch of critical bugs. Okay, fine. Yada, yada, yada. They go through that. They do show they've shown a lot of new art, which is great. And we've shown some of that. We've shown some new vehicles. In this one, they've got some new outfits available for some EMTs. But that's pretty much it. They're talking about 0.6. They're saying that they're not committing to a rapid patch cycle.
So for 0.7, they said they're not going to be doing they're not committing to anything. They want to be able to slowly put it out because I think they're feeling rushed with this one. They're realizing that they need to take time.
Well, they're rushed, but they keep talking about it. They keep saying it's going to be available. It's going to be available. It's going to be available soon. We're working. And every week goes by. For example, this update right here doesn't show anything but art. Yep. There's nothing but art in this update. So so an art isn't anything. I mean, there's hardly any coding required in that, right? That's not core game mechanics. And they admit that there's a whole bunch of issues with the game, the core game. And what we see a picture of a what is this? Some sort of Mustang ripoff, and some in an EMT staying at a fire station.
Well, and a lot of these things, like you can buy these on like CG Trader. I don't know if I think from what he's been doing, he's been talking about trying to make all these things from hand. But it'd be interesting to see how many of the assets in the end are actually ones that they created versus ones that they purchased. Because it seemed like they purchased a lot initially and then they've been replacing them out. I'm wondering if, like, for instance, this Thunderbird, is that one that they've taken the time to design? Or because you can go buy this asset, you can buy a car's almost identical to this for, $50 on CG Trader. I'm wondering if they're doing that or if they're actually hand designing, because that just doesn't seem like the best use of their time right now, making variations of vehicles. Seems like there's a lot of other things they could be doing.
I would tend to agree with that. And still no date, still no timeline. Soon. So that's pretty much it. I mean, eventually we get to the point where we'll just stop covering the update because there's nothing in these there's nothing in these articles that they're
until they actually put a content update out.
Yeah,
because all they've been saying, we're working on this. Here's the reasons we're delayed. It's not been great.
Yeah, I'm just not finding it very very intriguing at this point. Talk about a major flop and a major failure.
Yeah,
I don't. Did I have something in the book about Dead Matter? Because I'm pretty sure I did.
I can look. I don't remember if we had something specific for Dead Matter.
Yeah,
but
so
I will.
I wouldn't.
I'll look and see if I see anything.
Yep, I wouldn't. I wouldn't go crazy with it. All right. Actually, let's talk about Tencent for a second, Brian. There was an announcement from them this past week. A great company.
No mention of that, by the way.
No, none. They are launching a multiplayer survival game, which hit me as a huge surprise.
Yeah.
It's called Undawn, and it's going to be available on both PC and mobile. They say the world has been overrun by zombies, and it's your job to survive and thrive in this hellish landscape. Combining both player versus player and player versus environment gameplay, Undawn is a fresh take, listen to this, on an open world survival experience. To survive in these huge environments, players will scavenge resources, craft better supplies and weapons, and battle enemies both undead and still very much alive. To thrive, players must band together with others to build unique shelters, trade resources, and stake out homesteads to protect themselves from the rampaging undead. So, with that, there is a trailer, which is a trailer teaser for the game. So let's take a quick look at that.
This is our home. Standing on the same land. Breathing the same air. United among family and friends. To defend our home, our only home. With weapons and faith, we fight for our lives. No matter how dire the odds, no matter how cruel our world, no matter how far we stray from truth, no matter how broken our dreams, no matter who you are and where you are, as long as we stand and fight together, we can one day build a new home. Hope never dies. Join us. We are the Ravens.
Repeat. All survivors. Coordinates. North 37.01 degrees. West.
well, damn, was not expecting. I mean, really, the genre's kind of dead. I think we've kind of covered that on this program. Tencent believes otherwise, and based on that video, Brian, it does appear to be marketed towards the Western world. It's all in English. It resembles some sort of Western society.
They're saying they promise that it's going to redefine the genre.
I mean, Christ, I hope.
Now, one thing I think is funny is, and PC Gamer, for right under that, he says, we really don't think it's going to.
I mean, it probably won't, but it's a good idea.
Well, yeah, these bloggers, it drives me crazy, these bloggers who have no idea about these things, who put their commentary in, oh yeah, they can't do this, or they're not going to do this, and then they're always wrong, and then who's going to come back and correct it?
Yeah. So
yeah, I think there is room for it. I mean, how many open world zombie kind of survival games are out there that actually are playable at the moment?
Yeah,
it's a good catalyst.
Maybe a few that are like actually playable.
There's a couple. Yeah. But this is definitely a genre that's still out there. The ones that were there kind of folded because they tried to do too many stupid things like H1Z1.
Yeah.
And Just Survive and all that. I just think that if someone did it right, I think that there's plenty of room for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, I know some people's gut reactions, Tencent, but it's like, yeah, but like they own a whole bunch of other games and studios. So like, who cares?
Yeah.
I'm all for somebody revolutionizing, the industry. I think it does need to be, because in its current situation right now, it's not working great. The industry has had arguably more flops than every other. I mean, I can't think of an industry that has had more failures to launch than the zombie survival genre. I mean, it just seems like every game is just an utter failure.
Yep.
So if there's a company that has the resources to do it, it sure as hell is Tencent. So we shall see.
Yep. Yeah, we will see. And you never know, because Tencent, they put out, did they do ROE?
They do. Tencent is ROE.
I mean, if you look at ROE, they rolled that out, worked very, fairly bug free. The thing works. I mean, it's not the most in-depth game, I would say. I mean, they have some interesting things, but it works fairly well. And I think that if they did something similar to that, in this kind of a genre, that it would be something that people would play. If it was a knockout success, sure, you get a lot of people playing it. But if it's not, you'd still get enough people playing it to keep it alive.
Yeah. Well,
and this will be a mobile. I think it's going to be. Isn't this going to be a mobile and PC game?
Yep. They've announced that it is mobile and PC, which makes sense. Not my cup of tea, but we'll have to see. There's been so much garbage released in this genre. At this point, I'm not opposed to anybody releasing a game.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. If it works, it works. Cents. If it pushes somebody else to actually put out a good game, maybe that's what it'll take.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to anything.
All right. I wanted to, we mentioned ROE, Ring of Elysium, and they put out an update there. So they have their Adventurer Season 13 update. Came out on the 25th. One thing is they keep putting in new characters. They now have, they call this Siren Season 13. You can see there's a lady who has a very plunging neckline. And then they have some male characters where there's kind of like a biker dude.
What is a plunging neckline? What does that mean?
Well, if you look, the V of her shirt ends at her belly button. That's about as fast as you can plunge on the yeah. So
okay. All right. I mean,
I was making a comment on the shirt. It just seems like it's a very odd. I
don't think it's a bad look.
No, they're selling to. No, but it's definitely different. They've been transitioning slowly over time, and that's the main thing I'm commenting on is the way that they've been transitioning their characters. They seem to go in themes, and they're kind of pushing the limits more and more. And we'll see where this one ends up. They got a guy who looks like kind of like a biker dude, and then I guess is she a biker chick?
Presumably, yes.
Doesn't really look like it. I mean, it looks like a bondage chick, but I guess biker
what
too.
A prude.
This is true.
This is Brian. If Brian went out to a bar with me he'd see every other female looking like this and be like, "Where the hell are we?" I'd be like,
you need to put some clothes on.
Yeah,
Where's
like,
your
Brian,
father?
Like, Brian, we're at any bar with young females. They all look like this.
Oh, maybe this is the way I don't frequent those places.
Yeah, well, no, and I wouldn't expect if you frequent those places, you'd probably be behind bars. if you're not those and not the drinking bars, the other bars.
Yeah.
So, but yes, well, they're doing very much a Western style of the game.
Now, this one, if you look at the characters, they kind of have an Asian influence as far as their
facial
ethnicity.
features.
But what they're wearing is very much a Western style.
I mean,
which is fine. I mean, they're selling to a lot of people in Japan and over in Asia. Yeah.
I mean, leather jacket with the spikes on the shoulders and the motorcycle belt and the whole thing. I mean, that's Western. There's no question about it.
Now, that belt, is that not from World War II?
That's a biker symbol. I don't know what the deal is with that. I've seen that all over the place.
Based off of something from World War II and the Nazis? I just surprised that no one's made a comment on that.
I'm sure it's not, because they definitely would have not
I think it existed prior, though, in World War I. I think it's a German thing, but I don't know if it's necessarily purely World War
It's like a Hell's Angels thing, if I had to guess.
Yeah, but they also have swastikas and the SS symbols. I mean, they get all kinds of stuff on there. So, all right. So, anyways, that's happening. So, if you're playing Regal Lyceum, you can check it out. Yeah, PH is pointing out Nazis reversed it. They like mirrored the swastika, and then
we should stop saying that word,
because
we are going to get banned on a platform if you keep repeating that word. Thank you.
Okay. Well, anyways,
thank you.
Yeah, PH, quit bringing up that word. All right,
Jesus.
so that's
it's a bunch of children. I mean, it's just unbelievable. How am I supposed to do a respectable program here?
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Arc because we are running out of time. Let's talk about Arc here really quick. So 325.6 is an update that came out on the 24th, the Genesis Chronicles 5. So you can get in there and get your Tech Federation helmet skin. And they've got a couple of some notes and things that you can get for Genesis. And then they fixed a mesh exploit. Seems like they're constantly doing that nowadays once they finally admitted that they existed. 325.10. That's on the 25th as well. They fixed cryopods not displaying the creature's gender. Well, I didn't know that there were. And then Tech Federation helmet colorization on female characters. Oh, hate speech. All right, 325.13. And this is the final one. This was on the 25th as well. Fixed a bug that would cause dino mating cooldown to reach unreasonably high levels. So 325.6 is like their latest official. I don't know how they're doing this, but that's their current main version, and then the other ones are like sub patches. So I don't know if those ones are required to actually play.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's pretty much Arc for this week. Not a huge amount of stuff. Another one that's really small, Miscreated, put out an update. Now, they didn't post it anywhere other than in our Discord. There's a little notice, but it's 1.17.0b, and it's fixed some exploits. That's the whole patch. So I just put it in the notes like that.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Fixed some exploits. That was the patch. So that's your Miscreated update for the month.
That's what happens when you're trying to submit your Git request and it says reason or what's changed, and you just type something in, right? That's what that is. That's that
exploits.
Like you're I mean, it's like, you might as well just press space and press the enter key.
Yeah.
That's pretty disappointing.
Yeah. I was thinking about this morning. I'm thinking they must pretty much just be working on that other project. You remember the one that they showed off that's in the desert?
Oh.
Almost like a Star Wars look.
It's got like the main character's like a pig, like a boar.
No, that's different. No, that's by the people that make Conan Exiles.
Oh,
this one is one that they showed off. They showed off some like play on their Twitch or something like that, or YouTube. And it's out. It's kind of like, it looks like Star Wars almost. It's in the desert like that, and they have little stations where people go to.
Well, how are they funding that? PH brings that up. How does Miscreated still have funding to do any of this stuff? That's a good point. I mean,
I don't think they take very big paychecks. First of all, I know. I think it's because you can't. I mean, how many copies is Miscreated selling anymore?
I mean, I can't imagine many.
Rebel Horizons. Thank you, PH. That's the name of it. Rebel Horizons. That's the one that they've been working on, but I have heard zero about it in the past year.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about it either.
They have a video they posted 4 years ago at GDC.
Oh my God.
And all their blog posts are from 4 years ago.
I think it's safe to assume that the game's not being worked on at all.
Maybe. I mean, maybe they're not
you
really
can't,
doing much.
You can't be working on a project and not put anything out in 4 years. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, all I saw was them stream and show off a few things. But really, I mean, they've got a press pack, but they don't really have any details. It's just, yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah,
we'll see.
But
maybe they are working on it. We'll be surprised.
It's possible. I mean, you hit a certain point with these games where it's like, I mean, at what point do you just say, all right? And I'm not saying that Miscreated should do that, and and I don't mean to use them as the punching bag. They're just the game that's on the kind of the fits the narrative here. But I mean, at what point, Brian, with their player counts and lack of updates, do you just go, okay, all right, it was a good try. Too much competition in the field. We just couldn't make it happen.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't. They're very stubborn because how long ago? There was plenty of times when with Miscreated, people would have said, throw in the towel. But with all the networking things and then the disaster that was, I just don't know. I don't know what point they're going to say that, Miscreated, they're not really putting out updates. What are you going to cover the players at the end on Miscreated?
I am actually pulling them into the system right now. Yeah.
Cause I'm just kind of curious. That's one thing I was thinking to myself is like how many people are actually playing it?
There's 260 people playing it right now.
Okay. Yeah. And how are they funding the development of a whole new game unless they got some sort of investors or something?
That's about.
But if you say our current project has 200 something people playing it, is that going to make them want to turn around and fund you? That's just the current isn't good. Why are they going to hope for better in the future?
I don't know. The guys are all super nice. Well, most of them are pretty nice over there.
Half of them, yeah, most of them are nice.
Yeah, I think it is a valid question to ask. When is enough enough? And they're not the only game that's in that boat. There's a lot of games that are hovering in this 200 to probably 500 or so concurrent player count that it's, I mean, what do you do? I mean, that's not sustainable for long term. And looking long term at Miscreated, they have not had looking at a 6-month chart, Brian, a 6-month chart, their highest player count is 900 concurrent.
Yeah.
Looking at a year, it's 1,200, and that was in May of 2020, almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Maximum people.
Yeah, and I just don't know where they're because they've got people working on these other projects, but I just don't know where their money's coming from. Like how sorry about my fake news, but I don't know how much real work they're able to do, because these guys got to have regular jobs. Other jobs. This can't be their full-time work. They can't be hiring 6 or 7 people, however many are realistically there anymore, full-time for the amount of people, the amount of sales that they're doing in the game. I don't see it.
No, neither do I. I wish them the best. I still think they could have a possibility of having some grand success. Obviously, Tencent is not a stupid company. They are a smart player in the industry. I think they've got a very good grip on the industry. They obviously think there's something in this genre that has not been tapped. Mm-hmm. They think that there's a way to make some money. So, I mean, there you go. There's obviously some room in this market. The question is who is going to own it. I still think Miscreated could if they wanted to. I don't think they have the way. I don't think they have a way to do it.
Yeah, and I think they've shown over the past now 4 years, because I remember us talking about, for instance, that product 4 years ago and showing a little video of it, or in the last 3 years, and I don't know. I don't see them pushing to really keep moving and making Miscreated a success. I mean, I think they had all the tools to make it a success, but I think there's stubborn people in the company destroyed the product. It definitely wasn't their level designer. I mean, we have a very good relationship with Marco, and he's done an excellent job with the level, But the people in charge of programming, that's why they hate, or he hates me so much, is because I called him out years ago on it, and I just said, "You're," and he got pissed. But it's true. Poor decisions in the company are making it to where people just aren't interested in playing it anymore. And like when one of the founders is the cause, like how do you deal with that? People are walking away from it because you can't change it. If he's unwilling to accept that people don't like how he's running the company or how he wants people to play the game, people have moved on. And maybe this new title is where people that really wanted to have that kind of a game wanted it in H1Z1. They wanted it Miscreated. Maybe this new one that Tencent's putting out will scratch that itch, and all those players will fall there because there's a lot of people that want to have this kind of a game.
Well, I mean, clearly, again, Tencent did some sort of market research to say, hey, there is a group of players here that want to play X kind of game. We can provide that. So, yep. and they're right. I mean, we've been doing a podcast for over 6 years about it.
Yep.
So
yeah, so I'll be interested to see what they do, but I don't know what we're going to see out of Miscreated going forward. And even with that project they're supposedly working on, 4 years later, you would have seen some teaser videos, some update videos, some news.
I would have hoped so. Yeah, definitely.
And there's been nothing.
Let's cover. Let's get a couple more things in here before we wrap.
Okay.
Dead by Daylight has got a new series of killers out, and there's actually a couple of videos with this. I'm trying to make sure I got the order correct on these videos. The first one is the official trailer for this new update, which is called the All Kill Chapter. Let's take a look. Well, after a long ESRB screen and then a long behavior screen. All right, so we've got the anime killer, the Trickster, which was actually my nickname for a period of time. That's pretty funny, the Trickster. The anime killer, which is very out of, as Firebomb is saying, the worst killer in the game. He's not threatening. No, he's not. I mean, he's literally an Asian guy with blades for, like, he's like Edward Scissorhands, but not scissors. They're just like sharp points. Yeah, it doesn't really fit when you compare him to the other killers in the game. He's not threatening. If they all look like this, it would be fine. But you've got like horror trailer killers, the guy from Silent Hill with the big pointy pyramid head, and then you've got anime guy. Yeah, it's just kind of a weird combo, which I mean is cool. I mean, I'm into the animes. So let's watch the trailer now for just the Trickster and see what he is offering. He's got some sort of bat. Maybe throwing knives. Okay, so there's already another killer with throwing knives. They're called the Showstoppers. They're throwing knives.
It looks like you can block
the power system. He's got some sort of baseball bat with a cleaver on it, by the looks of it.
Yeah, he's got some sort of blade attached to it.
Yeah. Oh, and then throws a.
Do you think he's kind of like a twist on Joker?
Now
if you look at some of the things, like his pants, it seems like they're kind of. Oh, here, Firebomb even points it out right when I'm saying that. It says on top of that they have a DLC outfit that makes him look like the Joker.
So yeah, so maybe they couldn't get licensing from what was it, WB that owns the Joker or whoever. Yeah. So maybe they couldn't get that. But all right, let's take a look at the new Survivor that's part of this All Kill update as well. Same thing with her. Anime chick. Jun Lee. Wearing her white fur coat. Fast track, self-preservation, and smash hit are her 3 perks.
So is she a singer? She's some famous...
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably going for a mix of a K-pop and anime vibe with this, is what I gather. I don't think they're terrible. They're different, but here's the thing.
She's the manager of him. There we go.
Here's the thing. They don't have many more scary, spooky killer guys to pull from. I mean, how many times can you pull off fat guy with a meat cleaver running around? I mean, they've already got a whole bunch of those in the game. There's they have done such a good job securing additional IP or external intellectual property for killers. If they're going to continue to add new content, this is what it has to look like. You can't recreate scary, spooky guy with axe or knife or hatchet so many times. I mean, it's old. They've already got all these characters, so it's only a matter. This is what they'll continue to look at. They have to diversify because there's nothing left. I mean, they've already got they've got like 24 killers already. So I understand that this isn't.
Do you think that this is going to take away from it, or do you think they're going to go another direction with this, or do you think this is going to be kind of one-offs? There's going to be some non-scary killers. I mean, he's supposed to be scary, but he's not really scary.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and PH says, there's hundreds of IPs. There is hundreds of IPs, but IPs are expensive, and I think they have done a bang-up job securing IPs. They really have. If you look at their catalog of killers, they've got an incredible list. That doesn't mean they can't do better, but at a certain point, how many more? Why do you think there's not a million movies just like Halloween? Because the concept,
people get burned out.
How do you recreate that concept?
Yeah,
I mean, it's.
Well, and I mean, look at how many Jasons and all that they did, and you could say that there's some variety between them, but for most people, the non-fan, they're going to look at it and say, okay, there's some dumb person. This guy's walking behind him with the knife. They're in the game. You can't have multiple killers doing the same thing. People want variety. How many varieties are they going to be able to come up with eventually? Do you think eventually they'll do to where you pretty much build your own killer? You pick your perks. You pretty much create a killer. You can have it be to where
that's what you do now anyway. That's what I'm saying. It's like,
it really doesn't got your different perks you can assign. But I mean, I'm talking about even like animations. They're going to have it eventually to where you can, he has the ability to carry a bat and smash people, like where you can actually build your own killer. Because that seems like that's the only way you can really go, is just all you're doing is introducing new mechanics and not trying to create a whole new fresh. Have it to where eventually you get to a build your own killer and put some restrictions on that. Yeah,
I mean, I have been incredibly happy with the work that they've done. I have a hard time criticizing them for this. Not everything you do, not every hit is a grand slam. Sometimes it's a single, and sometimes it's a ground out to second base. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And they've hit so many home runs and grand slams with Dead by Daylight. This is not a hill I'm willing. This is not a hill I'm dying on. They've done such a phenomenal job. Not everything you do is a success, and this may be the one that's just not the success.
And Firebomb's kind of saying something similar. He says, they need to make it to where the killer chooses the weapon. That's what I'm saying. But when I say
but the weapon doesn't really do it. But the weapon. No.
But I'm saying you pick a weapon which has certain effects, and you're pretty much building the way that the killer attacks. Maybe have categories. So you have something that is used for stealth, right? Because each one has something for stealth. Maybe it silences them for a period of time. Does something to where you pick. Here's my stealth mechanic. Here is my how I do damage mechanic. Here is whatever else perk that you want to do. I just think that eventually they're going to run out, or there's going to be so many killers that's just going to be a bother, and you don't want to just keep. At what point is there too many killers? Because if you look at
that's what I'm saying.
League of Legends has way too many characters. If you look at how many,
nobody plays 3/4 of them.
Exactly. I don't want this to turn into that. Like, have it to where it stays. You have your IPs, which are well-known killers, maybe some that you create that are really unique, but then they need to just start making it to where you're pretty much picking how it operates, not some preset character.
They have 19
unless you wanted to have that. Yeah, 50 would be too many. I mean, how far are they going to keep pushing it?
I think it's great. I think that it's cool that they're still adding stuff. The community seems to like it. If they don't, they won't buy it, and that's that. But I would guess, well, I mean, I can tell you, actually. Is it available now? It is. So I can tell you, I think since it's DLC, I think I can look at purchases. So if you could give me a second, I can tell you that I can tell you nothing. It doesn't. SteamDB doesn't tell me how many copies it's sold. Maybe it's because it's too new. Yeah, I don't know.
This is the all kill. I'm just looking at to see.
Yeah, it doesn't show me It doesn't show.
So $6.99.
Yeah,
mixed reviews so far.
Yep.
Yeah,
but it doesn't show me how many people have bought it. So
I wonder if I have it already.
Probably.
Yeah, I do. Well, remember I'm supposed to have them all. I wonder if that's still operating
the same.
I'm
sure it is. All right.
I'll try it later.
There you go. So those account ones bought in the store. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yes, Debit Day allows you to buy DLC in game. Yeah. Well, nevertheless, $7. If you want it, great. If you don't, great. Don't buy it. So that's pretty much that. All right, Brian. Well, we're a little long. Kind of a bit of a disorganized show, all over the place.
Yeah. I.
Do you just want to push some stuff to next week?
We're pretty much at it.
Yeah.
Let's do some of these other, because I'm just kind of skimming all these, and there's some that aren't really super relevant for time. So I think we'll be fine pushing off the last of these till next week.
Okay, cool. Well, with that being the case, my cat's telling me it is time to do current players. She's in here crying. All right. Well, you asked for it. Let's take a look at Cyberpunk. Numbers came up a little bit with Steam came back up, but still not what you would expect. 14,238 currently playing that. The 24-hour peak, 19,517, and the 7-day peak, 19,080. I will remind you, that 7-day peak can't be right. Nevertheless, I will remind you this game is available on other platforms outside of Steam, so these numbers are not gospel. A game that is not available outside of Steam. Arc, 37,553 currently playing. The 24-hour peak, 57,463, with a 7-day peak of 72,187. Taking a look over at Rust, currently playing 60,031. The 24-hour peak, 87,550, with a 7-day peak of 18,640. Let's take a quick look at Miscreated. Currently playing, as I mentioned, 260. The 24-hour peak, 397, with a 7-day peak of 504. Looking at Conan Exiles, 7,980 individuals currently playing that. 12,424 is your 24-hour peak, with a 7-day peak of 16,164. And that brings us current players. It's pretty rough over there in the Miscreated land. I'll tell you that. You're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah,
see, I'm not the only. So for everybody, I want to see the chat fill up with professional, 5 years, like they do with me.
I'll just pretend like I was listening to you. I was just listening to you.
Yes, Nick.
What would you say? All right.
Hold on a second. I'm getting a. Okay. Hey, thanks, Brian. Yeah, special bulletin.
Yeah, I was talking to Nick in our secret chat channel.
Our IFB,
talking to his ear.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go and roll into tip of the week, where either we talk about a general gaming tip or one for a specific game. And I figured, hey, Elite Dangerous is getting ready to be hot again, so that'll be my tip of the week. All right. So in Elite Dangerous, if you're looking at getting heavily involved in this new expansion, one thing that I really encourage you to do, if you're actually wanting to stick with it, because this is the part that we talked about, it's hard to stay with the game because there's so much to it if the people around you are no longer playing. They have things called squadrons that you can join. And these are communities of people, kind of like our community for the podcast, but these people are dedicated to Elite Dangerous. A lot of times what these squadrons will do, they'll come up with long-term, short-term goals, maybe to go to a certain star system, to maybe get a certain ship. They have different things that they do. And they'll also give you a reason to kind of log in every single day, which can be difficult to do, especially if you're in a long trek, just hauling things to a far distant star system. But these other players, they communicate like we do. We talk about Discord every week. A lot of them will communicate through Discord, through Facebook. Some of them use other communication apps. And I'm going to include some of the in the show notes. So if you go to our website, I would encourage you to go and check out some of the communities. I have a list of about 9 or 10 communities that you can do. And if you go in there, you can go and check them out, join their Discord, see if it's a community that communicates as much as you'd like, if maybe play with them a little bit before you join. But there's a lot of good ones. So check those out. I'll have links to them to jump into our show notes for this episode, and you can click and view or join their Discords or view their websites. One thing that I really encourage is because answering some questions is probably one of the biggest things, especially with there's going to be a bunch of new type of content, a bunch of new features coming out with the new expansion. These communities are there to answer those questions. Hey, what do I need to do to be able to get this, or to be able to go here, or do I need this? Those are for communities, that is one of the biggest things. So make sure if you're interested in playing this game, check out the communities. Also, if you're looking at picking up a flight controller, the Thrustmaster T-Flight is the one that you generally would recommend. The flight controller, the flight stick in game, actually looks the same as that one. So when you look around in the cockpit, you see the same controller in the cockpit of the main ships. So that's pretty much it. If you're interested, I'm going to be playing it a little bit. Whether or not I'm going to be sinking a ton of time into it is questionable, but I definitely I haven't done a lot of the Horizon update. I've been in the one that's pretty much been flying around. I didn't go in there and play a bunch of the stuff where you were landing on the ground and driving around. So for me, it's going to be fairly fresh. That's one thing I'm kind of excited about. I get to see the full version of it, not the kind of the ramped up partial version that they put out before. So that's tip of the week. I think.
All right.
I'm excited.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and I don't know. We'll skip the game giveaway this week. I don't think.
Okay.
Actually, I give it back. I take that back. There's one person who entered for it. They must not like the game, but we will. We'll give that away. So.
All right. Excellent. Well, where can people find you online?
Well, if you want to find me, at Brian Aldridge on Parler or Gab. And if you go to my website, it's biteoftech.com. Also, make sure you go to our website, infectionpodcast.com. We were talking about Discord a minute ago. Join our Discord if you're not already. You can chat throughout the week. You can go in and submit news topics in our news channel. You can hang out, talk politics. You can hang out in our health channel. There's all kinds of different places in there. And also, if you want to get notifications for the live show, just join our Steam group on there, and there's a little tab for that. We also have on there links to our Twitch, our YouTube, our DLive, and our BitChute. If you want to watch the pre and post show, you can do that through. We have a link to the Podcast Extras channel on YouTube, and you can go check out some of our shows on there. We have the audio only forms down at the lower right, and so if you do that, there's tons of links to various platforms you can do, mobile apps, web-based apps, all kinds of things you can use. We have show notes now for every 324 episodes that we've done. They'll be posted tonight. If you want to watch or follow along, you can do that. Click on the links, view the videos as we go. Also, we have on there a support tab. If you want to do that, support on the top, or infectionpodcast.com/support, or you can go to humble.infectionpodcast.com, or you can go to amazon.infectionpodcast.com, or if you want Prime gaming subs you can do. And what's the other one that we have? Our
Subscribe Star.
Subscribe Star. We need to get a picture on there so I can.
I was all ready to do a picture last week, and I'm gonna blame you on this. And then you ruined my Tuesday night. Was the Twister was whoa? Everything was going everywhere. Brian's canceling the show. I've got all whoa.
Yeah, so, I'm not super worried about it. But I just got to remember.
I'll put it on there. But I was all ready to do it on Tuesday, and then Brian just ruined my day. So if there's any complaints, you can email brian@infectionpodcast.com.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that's it for me.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, much
soon.
Better. Much better.
Check out my new website, Brian, that I'm putting live. nickcraig.com. It's not live yet. It's in the process of being transferred to a different registrar. But that is where you'll be able to find all of the links for my my new endeavor as a talk radio man. You can find that at nickcraig.com, and I'll have more news about that as it goes through on the program. All right, Brian, thank you. Thanks to all the boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen that joined us in the chat. We will be back next Tuesday again. If you missed last week's show because it was on a Wednesday, make sure you're in our Discord. That's where we post a lot of this stuff. That's how we kind of get the words out for things like that. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it. My name is Nick Craig. Again, you can check out my website, nickcraig.com. You can follow me on Gab @Nick. If you missed any portion of the program, you can visit our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. You get links, show notes, pictures, all that fun stuff. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next time.